Patterson has that too, because there's like the Chamber of Commerce people, or people maybe who have got something to gain from bringing people to Patterson. But most of the people of Patterson couldn't care less whether anybody from outside
Comes to see them.
comes to see them. You know, their relatives from Puerto
right.
Rico or Colombia, or where they come from. Oh, yeah, right, they'll make the arrangement, but that's on a very personal, familial kind of level. But in terms of a general thing, no. That is, in a sense, maybe corporate and Chamber of Commerce and money making.
Right.
But in terms of personal, really what I care about type of thing, no, that's not happening. Now, maybe we have to ask ourselves, well, what do we have to do to bring some reciprocity of travel? Well, one thing, I have to make them feel safe coming into Patterson, and that nobody's going to harm them. And if anybody does harm them, they're going to suffer for it. And they have to feel that somebody from Patterson is not going to mess up their scene or embarrass them, or et cetera, et cetera. And until that happens, we've got nothing really, honestly, personally, from the heart to say to one another, because, I don't know, we're defensive,
But you're suggesting there's a kind of conflict there, that people in Patterson...
Mitch said the word before when he's talking about competition, and that is rampant today. Now, what makes it so? There's a lot of reasons, but competition is very rampant, and we have to look at that.
We're place competitions now, is that what you mean?
All kinds,
Right.
Psychological, personal, sexual, you name
Yeah,
it.
but when it comes to the town and deciding whether or not you're going to create a town that people want to come into, or whether you're going to keep them out because it's your turf and you don't want them to come into anyway, you might choose the latter. You
Right.
might say, hey, listen, we got a good thing going here. We don't need tourists. We don't
Right.
need people coming in and messing up our scene, right?
Ridgewood
So-
feels that way, certainly, right?
Well, people do come into Ridgewood, don't they?
Yeah, but not necessarily that the people
They don't feel
from
welcome,
Ridgewood,
is that what you mean?
well, they might, but people from Ridgewood don't go out and bring people in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other words, they've got architecture and gardens and an environment that's quite pleasing to look at and be a, you know, anchor
Villagey, the village of
you know,
Ridgewood. We
so
don't forget
there's
that
that
it's
kind
called
of
the
thing.
village of Ridgewood.
And not to say that Patterson doesn't have it too, because people who know their way around, who, you know, like the Italians who live out in Little Falls or Pumpkin Lakes or wherever, but they hang out at the Roma Club or this club or that club, there's no problem for them. And they know, they came from there, they lived there and so on. There are those, it's like the secrets of the light that Williams talked about. There are those who come into Patterson all the time, who work in Patterson, came from there, and know the magic and know the treasures, and there's enough traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the other night I was walking home from June's. I was from your building. I was going to my building, and I wound up staying over there a lot longer than I expected, and I was leaving about 2 in the morning. And and it's not a real long distance. It's like from here to the front of your building, say, to go there, but it's around a curve, and it's totally isolated by abandoned buildings and a parking lot. Now, I was thinking as I was walking, if I were from, you know, like Wayne or Saddlebrook, where I came from, or wherever, that my father would want to take me there, or someone would want to walk with me there. And here I was, 2 o'clock in the morning by myself, not even thinking about it. And that's when you start to think about how long you've lived in Patterson, because it didn't even occur to me that somebody would hurt me. But then I realized that there are a lot of crazy people, especially in Patterson, that are from the fringes, you know, that could be in the neighborhood. But it just occurred to me that if I wasn't from there, even going over to her house, the gypsies were out and they were doing their thing on the street, and then there were the other people, and I thought, you would really feel like you were alienated if you first came there. You wouldn't go in the Roma Club. You wouldn't go in those places. You kind of have to, it grows on you and you grow into the system, and you just sort of, there's a give and take. There's an interaction you have with everybody that you don't find. That's why I'm really scared to move. I don't want to move anyplace else, because before that I was very isolated as an artist.
Would you feel the same way, or something like what Don feels, that somehow this is, you don't want to spoil it, you don't want to see it gentrified, you don't want to see
No,
something
because
happen to it?
I mean, you know, in our neighborhood, you can go 4 blocks in any direction, and there are prostitutes, and there's this, you know, gunshots, you know, you hear it. But you'll come out in the morning and you'll go to the Roma or any of those little places on a Sunday morning, And all the little restaurants and the delis have their Italian bread tied to the doorknob because the bread man came. And nobody would even
Nobody touches
think of touching the bread in the Chianti Street neighborhood. And
There'd be some real shooting.
yeah, it just wouldn't happen. And it's just really interesting because it's such a unique place. I mean, it's so different. And it's just, there's an interaction that you don't get anywhere when you're out living in the suburbs in a house somewhere that you just, or even in an apartment somewhere else, you just don't get that.
So I think you were at the sort of press conference where Nelson and Associates showed the plan for,
Yes, yes.
for sort of filling in some of the empty spaces in the historic district and so on. How did you feel about that?
First of all, I don't think it'll ever happen.
Okay, so you don't have to worry
And
about
my
it,
first
right?
reaction is, how long will this last? It'll be ruined. And I wonder, you know, I really wonder about that. How much of that stuff is done just purely out of vandalism or because people don't want that there?
Yeah.
You know?
It's
I
like,
mean, we don't go around
stay
breaking
out.
windows, but there
Yeah.
are people who probably feel like they don't want that in there. I mean, you know there's neighborhoods, if you drive around in some of those neighborhoods, even in my car isn't the newest car, I feel I would not stop and take a photograph of somebody because I feel like they would misunderstand what I was doing, that I was like making fun of them or something. But, you know, like Mitch took, right? We went to see this mural he did, this K-Love thing, and he took June and I in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, he said to us, you know, there was just a major drug deal just done here by this telephone, and you missed it. Because they saw it. And I'm walking through, and he grabs my arm, he goes, watch it. First of all, it was the rat with no eyes, right? And then there was like this hypodermic needle, and I'm in these Huarache sandals, and he's like, wait, stop. You know, I mean, so there's really bad sections, but there's stuff that's just real special that
Did
people
they
don't wanna-
vandalize the Burger King? No.
Not yet.
Because that's for the people. That's
Yeah, that's true,
used.
that's
The Lou
true.
Costello statue they
It's
did.
closing though. The Burger King is.
Because I noticed the
Burger
kids
King is
that
done.
They
Must
did,
have a
they
bad
cleaned it up.
karma there.
the kids
did.
that ripped up the pictures that Marie did of Lou Costello, they don't know really, they don't recognize Lou Costello that way. I don't think.
Question.
Do you feel that because they're vandalized these places, is it because it's not part of their history, or is it because it's not being taught in the school system?
You,
Do you think they're not vandalizing the places because
Are they vandalizing?
Oh,
places
are they
because it's
vandalizing?
Not part of their
not
history?
part of that
It's,
their
it's
sense
not
of the
really
history of
their
the place?
culture. I think there's that. There's always that. Now, this kind of thing, though, is an international. They just burned down a mosque in India. The Hindu.
They took it down brick by brick.
Yeah, it was a
They burned
16th
it down.
century
500
mosque.
guys swarmed over it and pulled it down.
So this isn't unique to Patterson, New Jersey, or to any other place where what we call vandalism happens. You know, the stealing of the food coming to Somalia, the vandalism of Yugoslavia. I mean, that's really vandalism, you know, where they're shooting and killing people. We only deal with it on a very token kind of, I don't like that, I don't identify with that, that's not me. And so it's smeared in a certain way. But, okay, we have mugging and things like that, but in a sense, that's part of that too, because I don't value you. You don't value me, or I feel that you don't value me. So there's something personal that we have to
Deal with, yeah.
deal with.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think I see a lot of these children growing up in some of these houses, in these homes, and they don't even value themselves. You know, so how are they going to value somebody else's property or someone else? I mean, that can be a frightening thing there. That you know, the interaction between some people is really frightening because you realize how angry they are and how they don't really value themselves at all. I mean, yeah.
There's a picture in the book, a place like Patterson, that Ellen's remarks just now called to mind. It's called Homeless Children on Market Street. Remember it? Yeah. I don't know, Maria Gillen mentioned that picture too.
They live
called
in a
it kind
hallway.
of poetry that you could do in photography, that this was a poem too. And the anguish you feel. I don't know, I look at these kids and I can't believe that they don't value themselves. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but there's a tremendous sense of dignity in those kids.
Well, let me say something. I was going to mention this
it's
before.
not. It's not what you're taught, but
Well, it is because wait, he's a perfect example.
In a certain way, it is. But I mean, let's put it like this. I mean, I was taken away from my mother, and I grew up in the Bronx. My father was never home. Never home. In the Bronx, everybody knows, oh, fellas, look out for your car. It's going to be stolen. The tires are going to come off and stuff. Patterson, for me, is like a paradise compared to the Bronx, New York City. That's number one. But my father was never there. Nobody was ever there. But I said to myself, here I am. I'm surrounded by drugs in this building. They got cocaine in this building. I hang out with these fellas and stuff like that. I believe it's up to the individual to teach himself. That's how I think. I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it regardless if you're going to hang with that person or you're not going to hang with that person. And I was hanging with these people in an early age. But I was about 11 years old. Some of these guys were like 18, 19. They did ask me, you want to try? One time they asked me, and I said, no, that's it. They just don't ask you anymore. But I believe you got to teach yourself, because my mother was so strict at home, so strict with my brothers and my sister, that, so strict, she wouldn't even let us go to the backyard. And my brothers, when they turned to a certain age, that was it. They started going crazy, and one of them is in prison right now.
When my sister got married, my cousins came out from Arizona, and they grew up in Wanacue, which isn't far up there. And they lived in Arizona for about 10 years. They came back for the wedding. My cousin, who's just a few months older than me, Terry, he's like, he was always in trouble as a kid, and he's like, oh, he tells me right off, I'm not going to get in trouble this trip out, I'm going to really, I said, okay, cool, do whatever I can. He goes out that night. His parents go up to Wanacue to see friends. He ends up in a bar drinking with his buddies. They're going to drive him back to Patterson. They bring him into Patterson. Ooh, Patterson's a big place. We don't know where we are. So they're driving him all around. They're driving him all around. They finally drop him off on Graham and Governor.
Oh,
Okay. Graham and Governor is like as deep into the ghetto as you can get in Patterson. So they let him know. He's wearing like his work boots, his jeans, his like red T-shirt with his Marlboro, long hair, the bandana, just like here he is, like your typical rock and roller, and he's walking around in this like very black neighborhood, and he ends up getting mugged. But the way these guys mug him is they like come up on him real slow, they grab him, they like put him down gently, they like hold him down, they take his wallet, they take the money out. He goes, hey, come on, I need my wallet, boy. Guy like throws him back his wallet, they let him up, they dust him off, and they point him in the right direction to my house. Okay? The cops come rolling around the corner.
Oh.
What's going on? What's going on? I just got mugged. Where are you from? Arizona. Wise guy, huh? Up against the corner. Sticks around. Right? He ends up coming home in the patrol car after getting pushed around by the cops. He's like, I like the muggers better. I'm like, yeah, well, you never know. It's like a very topsy-turvy place. You don't know what you're going to get,
That's
Okay.
true. That's
It's
definitely
true.
true.
But, the cops don't like outsiders. It makes their job harder.
What's gonna happen when they renovate the historical district and people are gonna start coming in the city?
We won't be alive to see that, so I wouldn't worry about it.
I think hell freezes over. I'll tell
It
you.
happens in dribs and drabs. When someone has something to do and they want a piece of property. I think Mitch is right in as much as it's usually an individual or a group of individuals who have something to do that's important to them, and they'll fix up a piece of property. And they'll do what's necessary to get the kinds of support, backing that they need. And they're also the kind of people that can get to know the people in the neighborhood and somehow fit in. And every innovation or new store that opens or new business that opens and stays open operates basically that way. And it operates really all over the world basically
But
that way.
you don't see anything coming in on a vast scale.
I haven't seen it, no. I mean, they
We
talk about it.
We're under the clock here, but I want one quick go-around take on this. Where do you see Patterson? Let's say 2001.
Well, there's going to be like the technological innovations of 2001. Whatever most of the United States is going to have, Patterson will have it, but it will have its own flavoring. That's Patterson, that you can locate in Patterson when Hamilton was here, and through the years, there are certain things, if you know how to look, that you can almost sense the style of the place. There's a certain twang to the way the people speak that's a little different from Wayne Franklin Lakes. And then, of course, it becomes distinctively different as you move to other parts of the country.
Okay, 2001, Patterson, 2001. You'll still be going to the Roma for your cappuccino?
I think it'll stay the same, but again, depending on what the economy does, it could get worse. I mean, I don't think where we are, you know, the historic district, I think necessarily will change. I don't know if it's going to if it'll drive the poorer people out the way that everything is going right now.
The mills behind Mill Street and Van Houten Streat there are all burned out. There's got to be something happen there, right?
Well, I've been there 7
would you
years.
like
I
to
haven't
see
seen
happen
anything
there?
happen. What do I like to see
Dream a
happen?
little bit.
Dream a little bit. I would like to see maybe that they let us buy the buildings that we're in. You know, like buy them so people could actually live there and have a little more pride in the area.
Mm-hmm.
If they could put in a museum or something more about the history of Patterson, or a park or whatever they said in that area between the two buildings, that would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
If they could really, I don't ever expect a restaurant or anything commercial like that to be in there.
Right.
But something that would speak of the history of the city and show that, you know, the area where it is, where you overlook the waterfalls and all that. I don't ever expect housing to be there either. You know, I mean, high-end housing. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we don't
that
get
doesn't happen.
low-income
Okay.
housing.
Your question, could you ask it, what would I like to see rather
Put it,
than...
sure, yeah, you want to
I would
have
rather,
go around
what
here
I'd
again, huh?
like to see is animals coming back. I'd like to see horses, a lot more horses
Yeah,
in
that's great.
Patterson. I would like to see it more natural along the river shore. I'd like to see nature reclaiming all the edges, and that all along the river shores would be sort of public land. And I would like to see, you know, cultivation so that animals like cows, chickens, you know, more farmy kind of thing
That'd be cool.
could be a part of Patterson.
You want to see the rural re-enter, Patterson.
Yes,
Yeah, that would be
right,
great.
the rural reentry.
Yeah. How about you, Mitch? What do you dream for Patterson?
Well, 2001.
2001, 2012, whatever you like.
I just pray to God that at that time things will probably, you know, get a little better. I mean, I used to visit Patterson years ago when I was a kid, and at the time people I used to look at it and say, "Dad, this is Patterson?" He said, "Yes." I said, "I like this place. I wouldn't mind living here." At the time I was around 6, 7 years old kid. People had their doors open, pumpkins were outside, their bicycles were outside. Nowadays you can't even do that anymore. Your pumpkin gets stolen in your porch.
Kids get stolen from
Kids get stolen.
And you don't put your bicycle
Cars.
outside.
I even found a stolen police car about 2 weeks ago. I mean, I'm here giving tickets out, and I said, Jesus Christ! And the cop comes. He said they stole the car right in front of my house.
Well, I got chased by one who wasn't really a policeman. They pulled me off on Route 80, and it wasn't. It was just two guys that had a car.
So
Wow.
you know, that's to show you that
That is-
the changing that I seen when I was a kid, that what is going into
Yeah,
now.
he
You
wants to
know,
stop. You're running out of tape or something.
what
I
is
wanna-
going into now.
Hey,
Okay,
Bob.
give Bob a quick take. Huh?
Basically, Patterson's connected to everything else. Society's screwed. We're on our way downhill. We're running out of drinking water. We got Masonic symbols on our currency. The world's being run by secret societies. Peace and love, you know? I don't know.
Okay.